Jay, thank you so much for joining the podcast, man.
Of course, man. It's nice to be on here with you, man. It's a pleasure.
So I want to start off by you just introducing yourself, telling us a little bit about you.
Of course, man. So my name is Jay Spencer Sterling. I'm originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan, not to be confused with Detroit, Michigan, or 8 Mile. A lot of people, for some odd reason, think that's the only place in Michigan, but we're actually from the opposite side of the state. So West Michigan, closer to Lake Michigan. But I'm now here in New Jersey. I'm lead producer artist at Mint Music, and in a nutshell, man, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah, very cool. And how did you? Because like the topic of today is music.
Yes, sir.
How did you? What brought about your passion for music today? Like what was it like in like your past? Like what was your experience? I guess.
So when it comes to music, I believe, we'll obviously dive into this a little bit later when it comes to, passion and, what you're chosen for and stuff. I believe I was chosen. It's not really something that I chose per se. But you know how when you're in middle school, or maybe it might be earlier for some people, you have to choose band or choir. Like I chose band. Like I always gravitated more towards like playing the drums, like because that's what I started out as, was I played the drums, and then I later went into different instruments, but ultimately that's where it started, man. I mean, I didn't have some transcendental experience or anything like that, but
Right.
it was definitely it, that's where it started in school, and then also too with my parents, because my parents split when I was very young, but my mom had a different taste than my father. So I got a chance to really experience a bunch of different types of music. Like my mom being a black woman, I guess not so stereotypically, but she liked R&B music, you know what I'm saying? Key Sweat, Boys to Men, stuff like that. And then my dad being a white guy, he liked stuff like Simply Red, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and he would get into other stuff, Michael Jackson, stuff like that. But I got kind of two different sides of the spectrum when it came to music, and that helped my decision because it was just something that led my spirit.
Right. Yeah. And there's just something like music and the arts in general. And I feel like we kind of touched on this offline, but like it's just taken for granted, I think.
Yep.
I think similar to like, I've done episodes about food and like, talking about just like when someone, whether they're, absorbing it, literally like with food or, absorbing it, a bit more metaphorically as far as just like the music and the rhythm and all these things. I really feel like a lot of times we're just so desensitized because there's just so much information is so much coming at us that I think that sometimes unfortunately we kind of don't truly absorb the beauty of the art that we're experiencing.
Amen to that, man. That's actually a great point too. I mean, I definitely want to touch on that specifically, because I mean, when you look at social media, and it seems like most mediums of art, it's the same exact thing.
Right.
It's like we're getting into this NFT situation now, and everyone wants to create something because it's a part of this wave that people have made a lot of money on, right? So like, okay, so as a musician, what do I do with this situation? But like maybe slowing that down a little bit and seeing how we can actually appreciate the music first, or appreciate the art first.
No, yeah, totally. And I think that, one of the things to your point that's a bit unfortunate is that we've we live in a society where, like, for instance, there was like a survey that would always be taken, asking, like, I think, like, 6, 7, 8 year olds like what they want to be when they grow up,
Yeah.
and the most popular answer for like the last like 30 plus years had been astronaut. Like, oh, I want to be an astronaut, doctor, lawyer. It's like
Yeah.
today when you ask kids that question, the answer is YouTuber,
No
or
kidding.
yeah, there was an actual survey
Wow.
where they did that. But like that doesn't surprise me because we live in this society where you're given this illusion that, oh, you don't have to work. You could just like vlog or do
Yep.
this and you'll make millions. Like there's like 12-year, like I know of this. Like I used to have to advertise. Like there are 12-year-olds who make millions of dollars just unwrapping shit on
Yep.
YouTube.
That's
And
crazy.
that like and good for them, but I think societally it gives off this fake um notion of being able to just throw something on the internet and you'll be good, and you don't really need any like tangible skill, or like you can do it fast.
That's
That's the other
correct.
thing. It's not only just what's being promoted to do, but it's also like, oh, you can do this really quick. Because like with something like music, if societally, generally people are getting into that mindset of quick and easy, that's not how you get true art.
That's
Like the
correct.
Beatles aren't the Beatles because they, just decided to do it as a little side hobby, an hour to a week. Like they put in the work. They did thousands of hours so they were able to become who they are. Like that's just, you know, I don't
Those
know.
are the facts, man. Those are the raw facts. And it's interesting because like who knew that when I was sitting at home waiting in front of my computer for the dial-up internet to start, that one day there would be, just like you said, 10, 12 year olds who again were making millions of dollars every month. And but it's interesting too, because like you look at the production value of a lot of these videos, it's not just these 12-year-olds. Like there's a lot going on there. You know what I'm saying? Just like there's a specific, like you, since you're in marketing, like I imagine you understand that, like when you see it, you see the layers of what's going on with those type of videos. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, yeah, okay, you have this kid, and then you have billions of other kids or millions of other kids who are watching these kids and they want to do that. But um it just seems like we're starting to lose like the heart and soul of just anything at all when it comes to the arts. It's just like, okay, if that's what you guys want, like again, we're gonna get to a point where it's critical mass, and then I think people are going to, they're gonna start getting tired of it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like and it doesn't really matter what medium we're talking about. Like if it's shit, it's shit. Okay,
Yeah,
it's like I would like to say that there's this size fits all objective view of everything, or more subjective, I'm sorry, subjective view of everything. But after a while, man, it like that just it just doesn't work anymore, unfortunately.
right. And what's like your thoughts on the influence that music has on us societally? Like, do you think, so for instance, when someone's like, oh, these songs, music videos are sending the wrong message, like they're,
Yeah.
and things like that. Like, do you think that there's any truth and that, like, there is like kind of a responsibility when it comes to especially like major artists?
100%, man. So, I was thinking about this earlier because I mean, I really think about it all the time since I'm an artist and I'm a storyteller. I want, and I have younger siblings too. Like, I didn't really think about this in a concrete way until I understood that I'm actually an example, like, I'm in a living example for someone now. But when I think about just people in not only the media, but just like you said, larger artists, the responsibility that falls on our shoulders. Because you can have someone who's a teacher making $35,000 a year who is literally molding the minds and creating the future. They're struggling to get paid. But then you get someone who is an industry plant artist who doesn't really care about what they put out, who can put blood and in shoes, you know what I'm saying? And then turn around and say, no, I don't care what people think. I don't care what the youth thinks about that. And and it's like, and they're making millions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? It's just like,
Mhm.
so where's the responsibility here? So, but societally, if you think of, also just like another concrete example, if you think about something like Barbie dolls, for instance, when you have a mind that is malleable as a child, all right, because that's where a lot of this marketing and this branding is geared towards, whether we like to admit it or not. When Nicki Minaj dresses up, it's very doll like. All right. So she not only has a specific audience, but the way she changes her voice, what Madonna did, what Rihanna has done, like all these people, it's like you, of course, you're talking to a younger demographic with that, and they're listening. All right. And their entire existence is molded around that. So when they don't pay attention to that type of stuff, when they constantly wear wigs and all this other stuff, subconsciously, that's basically retraining a mind and saying, you know what, you don't have to appreciate your god-given hair, you don't have to appreciate your god-given melanin and how that looks, you know what I'm saying? So because really when you look deep into it, it's like and that's really a whole nother topic when it comes to like degenerative traits or more dominant traits and stuff like that. But if you're a black person, for instance, just one example, if you're a black person and then you have beautiful, kinky hair that grows upwards, and then and you're a young child, and then you see your favorite artist wearing a wig, a blonde wig, lightening their skin, putting contacts in and stuff like that. It's like, it's very hard to navigate that sometimes because it's like, oh yeah, you want to appreciate the art of it, but you have to understand that like what you're doing to these kids and the story that you're really telling, because it's not just putting out music, it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. And I think the problem is a lot of these artists, it like, for instance, of your example of Lil Nas X, it's like I think the thing that should like, and I think you have it's unfortunate because we're so like divided that even on something that you think we would be on the same page, we're not, and
Yep.
it's because of just the level of division. But like something like that, I think the thing that I found problematic was that he was supposedly marketing himself as an artist for kids before
Yeah.
that. Like he was saying like all these things, and then you do something like that. And like I feel like things like that, it's like me personally at least, I don't think that that was his idea. I
Right.
think that at the end of the day, he's a prop, and that the marketers and like the companies that he works for and that he's doing business with, they're like, let's use this guy, do a gimmicky devil thing. People are gonna freak out. It's gonna create division. People are gonna like people who aren't gonna like the conservative people who are saying like negative things will embrace it even more to spite them.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's like, I highly doubt that he like when they pitched this to him that he was like, "Oh, but what about the kids?" And
Yeah.
I just wonder, do you think that, when it comes to certain craft, uh, money can almost be like a negative and as far as just the production of what that artist ends up making?
100%, man. And, I'll just loop back around to the example I made about teachers. If you had a music artist who was only able to make, like from the beginning, let's say, we're, back in the 50s where artists are only making, $30,000 a year, $50,000 a year tops as a music artist. I maybe a little bit more than that, but and then you say, okay, we're only going to cap it at 100,000, right? That's all an artist can make. I believe that the narrative would be different when you have people who are struggling in a specific whatever, in a demographic, or they grow up in a specific neighborhood. Like they're like, oh my gosh, I can make millions. Or as you said before, where you have the 12-year-old or the 15-year-old who's like, nah, I don't need to go to college. I can just continue making this vlog and stuff like that. You take the money off the table, what's really there? That's the foundational question. If you take any type of gain off the table, why are you really doing this? You know, so that's a
Right.
question I like to ask myself and other people.
No, that's an excellent point. Because right, like if you take out the equation of money, like is your passion still going to be at that high of a level? I think I'd argue maybe like 5% of artists, like maybe even more, maybe like 10, 15% of artists, I
Right.
think the answer would be like absolutely like I wouldn't want to do anything else.
Yep.
But then there's a good chunk of those people who are like, I can't make fast money, no thank you. And it's like, okay, well that's good. Now we know
Yep.
who is in it, because they love it, and who's in it, for the gains that they think that they can get.
That's
Um
true, man.
do you remember? I'm sure you probably had a similar experience. I think we're on the same age.
Right.
Like growing up and like watching music videos in the morning.
Yeah, man. That was one of my favorite things, bro. Like,
I love doing that. Like that. Like it just. That's the thing about technology that I feel like as a species, like we don't appreciate as much as we should. It's like night and day thinking about back then, MTV, like 7:30, 7 in the morning,
yep.
just watching music videos till it was time to go to school, come home, maybe watch TRL, see the
Yep.
the countdown of who was number one. That was the big question, is like
Yep.
who's gonna be number one today. Um that's like a completely different world that we live in today. MTV doesn't even fucking play music videos
Nope.
anymore.
Nope.
It's
No
called
longer
music
music.
television. There's no music.
That's weird, isn't it? That's weird. Yeah, hey man, one of the things that my brother and I used to do, and this was before Apple Music, all that other shit, we would have a tape recorder, all right? And I am saying a tape with an actual tape, you know what I'm saying? So when the video came on, we would put the tape right up to the speaker of the television. And that's how we made our playlist. You know what I'm saying? So like when your favorite song came on, like, oh snap, grab the tape recorder real quick. And then, we would put it up there, whether it was, Mace, 8 Ball, and MJG. Like these were some of my favorite artists to just like have their music. You know what I'm saying? If and it was really because we couldn't afford to go get the CD or whatever. But it's the accessibility, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like when you can reach out and touch something on your phone, on your computer, it's just like we kind of start to get wired to take things for granted,
Absolutely,
unfortunately.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's like, to your point with the cassette, I remember I had like the huge ass Discman at one point.
Yeah.
And like it was funny. I remember I had a friend who had like a CD burner. So we started like our own little business where like we'd be like, write down, the list of songs you want. We'll
That's
burn you a
dope.
CD for $1.
That's dope.
And it was funny. It's just funny because it's like I think if I remember correctly on the CD, like I think at max maybe put like 10 songs or something.
That's right.
And it's like, most people, it's either you had that or you had like there was like the mini MP3 player that like
Yep.
had like at the time what was considered a lot, like half a gig of memory.
Yep.
It's like, oh my god, like you could listen to 50 songs. Like that's
That's
crazy.
crazy,
It's like
man.
today now in your pocket, you have a device that makes it you could listen to and find any song that you want
That's
at the
correct.
at the at a click of a button, and like you
Yep.
can freaking like when you do your homework and everything, you don't have to go to a library and take out actual books. You can
Yep.
Google anything and everything that you want. That's life changing technology that like
Amen.
I feel like we to this day still don't fully comprehend as human beings, like just how influential it is to our way of being.
That's facts, man. And I look around at the amount of technology that we've seen just in the last 15 years. I mean, I spoke about dial up earlier. It's like, again, who would have knew that I can jump on my computer now with a snap of a finger? Like I can literally have access to anything. And which is cool. Like that's good. Like I think that again, when you start to take out the human element and like the real passion, like the spirit of things, that's when we start to muddy the waters a little bit, you know, because I would love to be able to coexist in a natural world with all this technology in a way that, again, we're not taking things for granted every single day. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, because one of the things that, and we'll get into like my brother and like the journey that we've had too, but when I first started going to comic conventions with him, we would speak to people and we had to basically rewire our mindset. The best way to sell something is to not sell it at all, is to really just have a genuine connection with someone, even for a moment, understanding that the moment that you have with a person, we can't get that back, you know. And understand, like, it's very hard to, again, rewire yourself to be like, you know what, I'm gonna appreciate every single moment every single day. Like, that's a little bit difficult sometimes, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that, you know, we're all perfect and we're going to change everything we do, but if we have 100 moments a day and we can focus on one and then two and then compound it over time, you know, I believe we start to appreciate the arts again. We start to appreciate everything we do have. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No, absolutely. And it's so interesting, like when you think about us as a species, right? Because it's like the thing that makes us special is also the thing that we have to work on, right?
Yeah.
Like the difference between a human being and like a dog or like a cat, a dog only knows right now. A
Yep.
dog is never going to be thinking, what am I going to be doing tomorrow?
Yep.
That's never going to happen in a dog's brain. We're able to conceptualize, to perceive, to envision things that don't actually exist. And that's why we are, at the top of the food chain because
Amen.
of the thing, like our ability to, think up things that don't actually exist. There's no other species to our knowledge, at least,
Yep.
that is able to do that. So
That's
like I
correct.
I I think that it's definitely one of those things where you need to balance it a bit and just really try and live for the moment whenever you can. And I think that with all the distractions, all the things that we have, it's probably harder now than ever before.
Bro, it's so hard, man, when it comes to focusing. You know, it's like, because if you're running a business and like, and you know what it's like with the podcast, it's like, if you just look at your brand, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, I got to set up the podcast and I got to get the music and then I got to, you know, market it and then I got to have the artwork. And then it's just like, and everything, you know, you want it to flow together and then you want to progress too, right? You don't just want to stay stagnant forever. So, it's like focusing on one thing at a time. You know what I'm saying? In my own business, like I really just say that for myself as well. Like, man, what do I do now? Right now. You know, because there's always a million different things we could be doing, right?
Right. No, yeah. And in your opinion, from a standpoint of being an artist, like what does it take to be a good artist, like to really excel?
Sure, man. I believe that first of all, you have to know yourself. Like that's above all. Because let's say I grew up in an area where everyone was listening to country music, but I wasn't really into country music. Like I need to have the courage to say, you know what? I actually like Enya a lot. You know, I want to make music that's more ethereal sounding or, more melancholic. Whatever it is, knowing that first and then consistency in everything. You know what I'm saying? It's just like any way that I've been able to grow is to consistently be aware and understanding that, okay, branding is cool, marketing is cool, all that stuff is cool, but how do I really connect with people in a real way? Because regardless of what industry we're in, fitness, music, art, marketing, manufacturing, whatever it is, you are in the service business. Don't forget that. It's service driven. So when we focus on the service of it, actually serving, not just serving ourselves, but serving the culture, the community, that's when you really start to break through okay to good to great. In my opinion, anyway.
No, yeah, yeah, I'm totally with you. And one thing I was thinking about when you're speaking about this is just the moments where I've heard someone sing, and like the deep feeling that it gave me at times. And at like going back to, I guess, we were talking about like money, and like putting like a cap to like kind of see who's really in it. It's interesting when I think about people from like church who I hear sing at times, and like the main woman, like the director of the church. Like, there are times where she has sang, and like I just just tears,
Yep.
and it's like I like uncontrollable tears, and I'm just like, why am I, crying right now? And it's
Yep.
like there's just this, like, sometimes, like, when someone is just really, really about the music, where like you can like almost feel it.
Yep. Yeah,
It's
man. I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, it's incredible. And like, that's like someone, like, so for instance at the church, like, she's like a full-time employee, but she's not making a lot of money doing this. So like,
Yep.
that just, to our point earlier, really just highlights that she's really in it for the music.
Bro, and we need to see more of that, and I would and I'll bring it back to one of my original points about the difference between people who make like 30,000 as a teacher and then millions at, in the music industry, for instance. It's like, why exactly are we, and really this is just like a piggyback off of your point, like, why is it that I can have someone who will, again, mold the minds of the future, only making a certain amount, and then an entertainer, a basketball player, a musician, whatever, making so much money? It's because of what you just said. It's because it invokes a specific emotion, it's a feeling, and that's something that's hard to duplicate. Like when you really connect with someone, like on a relatable level, that's how the Beatles can, do have 19 number ones. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why you can have someone like Eminem who does a song like Stan. It's like there were people who really had that type of passion for him as an artist. And it's because of the stories he told us, because the emotions and the connection that they had. So, like, I believe we're missing that a little bit, but I personally, I believe that that's why people are able to make so much money as an entertainer, and then other people make so much less in different areas of expertise.
Right. I also think, like, I agree, but I also think that it goes back to just what we value and how we monetize
Of course.
things. And anything that generally is, more so in correspondence to, social work, and engagements with people in that fashion, that is less quantitative and more qualitative.
Yeah.
We generally don't prioritize that as much as, something that's gonna, we're gonna reap the rewards for it right now versus
That's a good point.
later on.
That's a great point, actually, man. That makes sense though too. Yeah, like being able to, just like you said, like get it right now. I can listen to the music right now. I can add it to my library or whatever the case may be. But yeah, it's a good point, man.
Yeah, because molding the future, that's great for the future. But what about right now?
What about right now? Yeah, yeah.
I
Amen to
want
that, man.
I want my fucking latte.
Yeah.
Like, right now.
Right now, yeah. Put on that hot new song right now. Yeah, yeah. That makes
Yeah.
sense, man. I like that. Yeah.
But I think that, when it comes to art, when it comes to music, like we were saying earlier, I think that we definitely take it for granted. I personally, I miss going to theaters, love going to theaters, like
Yeah.
whether it's Broadway play, Shakespeare in the Park. And there's just something where I think that like the arts is something that makes a species that was already incredible even more special, because it's like, if like I were an alien, I were to look at a human being, I'd be very confused, because
Yeah.
you'd see this creature that has all this potential, has all the things at their disposal to do either something tremendous and beautiful, something evil. They could
Yep.
do nothing at all. And then like if you were to examine the things that we do, you'd probably be even more confused because you'd be like, wow, this is a species that's so separated, like, so tribal, has like come this close to killing each other like so many times,
Yeah,
but yet but yet they're able to build make beautiful music that like just will crush your soul and make you like have all sorts of feelings and all sorts of things. It's like it just shows like how like we have the potential to do such great, but then we also have the potential to do, quite terrible things. And it's a
that's right.
constant, decision that you have to consciously make as far as, which route you want to go.
That's a great point, man. And hey, man, when it comes to music, I mean, obviously, when we touched on a little bit earlier, being able to make that specific decision is who you are and what you want to be. It's like, are we gonna be that atypical artist, or are we going to be someone who actually explores himself first? But I like that analogy you made about, like, again, if someone were to take a 10,000-foot view or million thousand-foot view at a human being, it would be a little bit odd to interpret our actions and our overall contribution sometimes.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you know, like when you think of just all the things that have been incorporated into music, like from a technological standpoint, as far as what we can do, do you look at that more so as a negative or a positive?
I look at it as a double-edged sword, honestly. It's and I guess depending on what era you come up in, you're going to look at it a little bit different. But personally, I believe that at this moment, it's more on the spectrum of negative than positive, because when you have someone who has worked their entire life as a musician, let's say like they've put blood, sweat, and tears into it, learn music theory, understanding arrangement, and different things associated with music, because there's like keys in music that invoke certain emotion or that have a specific sound. So when you learn that, you can consider yourself more of a purist. But then there's other people who only use loops, for instance, who are making millions of dollars and who are really touching more people with the music because of technology. So it's like, so should I learn music or should I learn technology? Because they're not the same thing. So when it comes to music, unfortunately, I believe we've seen the negative a lot. Like, it was something like we had to go there, because when you have something like technology that's introduced into the system, it's almost like we have to let it go through the system and we have to see how it'll really work for us in the long run. So being able to have a happy medium, because I think a lot of people are figuring that out now. Like, okay, if you're an older artist, if you're someone who's like 50 years old who never had access to any of these tools, now you're learning how to incorporate it into your system, so you can still make contemporary music. You can maybe make sure that your workflow and everything that goes along with your compositions are faster, because that's what technology helps. It helps everything go a lot faster. All right, but the quality still stays the same in a lot of aspects. I mean, the sound is different, but I mean, it's tough sometimes depending on how you talk to answer that question accurately.
No, yeah, and I think, like, one of the things that's really cool about, the technology and the internet that we have right now is that, like, for instance, during this pandemic, like, actually right before the pandemic, I decided I wanted to learn how to play the guitar.
Nice.
And, I was, like, going in person for lessons, but then, like, COVID happened. But, like, because we have the internet and everything, I was able to do my lessons virtually, every week with my instructor. And, like, there's just guitar sales, were, like, through the roof. Like, when the pandemic
That
started, they're like, "God
makes sense.
damn."
Yeah.
Yeah, but, like, it was just a nice thing to do to just be able to, have an instrument, like, absorb the information from the person teaching me as far as the notes go and, like, different, styles and how to, like, maneuver. and like the feeling that you get when you're playing music and when you feel that vibration, it's there's just nothing like it. It's incredible. And I think, you know, technology, that's like one of the positives, I think, you know, and like you're saying, allowing people to really accelerate like how fast they can, you know, do the things they need to create music, which is great. As long as, you know, the level of integrity as far as when the music is being produced in that fashion is
Correct.
still at a high level, I think that that's it's a positive.
100%, man. And that's what I would always urge people to do is to explore. And that's what the technology has helped us do. You know, all of the content that we've seen come out of the pandemic has been crazy. It's been amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and because didn't you start the podcast like during the time as well?
Yeah, yeah, I
There
did.
you go, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you got a great podcast, man. Like I've listened to some of your episodes. The one with your boy who you used to work with. The food episode, I really like that. The one that you did
Oh,
with
thank you.
Aaron, that one was dope too. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like when you get something, like when you get positive out of a negative, we're starting to see that, and technology helps with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, when it comes to human beings, I think while there's potential for, you know, everyone to do terrible things, I think that the majority of people are decent. I think that the
That's
majority of
right.
people, like when they are given, you know, access to something as powerful as the internet, will do more positive than negative. Will there be some negative? Absolutely, but I think that the positive outweighs it.
I agree 100%, man. 100%.
And, you know, going back on the topic of like, you know, music and like the feels that it can give you, like,
Yeah.
isn't it amazing how like when you're under the influence of something, it's like time like depending on what you're on, like I've
Yeah.
like been on shrooms listening to music or like
Yeah.
acid. That shit is it's like you can literally I feel like you can literally feel the music.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, I've only experienced music while smoking weed or drinking alcohol, but you know, I imagine, you know, there's like a science-based answer to that, obviously, but you're right, man. I mean, I've always said that, you know, like marijuana, for instance, is a gateway between the conscious and subconscious mind. So when you're able to tap into a lot of the things that you don't really, you know, see on a regular basis, or at least you can't consciously comprehend, and then you have music that goes along with that. You know, obviously there's just like you said, vibrations, like all that has all that's a part, like it plays a part in all of that, you know.
Yeah. And when you do it on psychedelics,
Yeah.
it's like the whole consciousness and everything that you're saying, it's like times that by like 1,000, especially
Nice.
like if you're like looking up into the sky, you're on acid and like you just have music blasting. It's like the clouds are dancing. You can like it's just
Oh shit.
remarkable. It's remarkable. And I think that the thing is, you know, psychedelic drugs, like we know first and foremost, there's been studies that show if you suffer from depression and things like that, microdosing on something like shrooms is
Yeah.
actually very positive.
Nice.
And like there's just a certain feeling that you get like on psychedelics that I think really kind of highlights the potential that we have when we are able to really relinquish our ego and just, you know, be all in on our humanity and just, you know, living for the in the present. And
Yeah.
like when like you're on that drug when you're listening to this music, depending on, you know, the quality and like what the artist is trying to, you know, really convey, you like if it's a good artist and if it's good music, you will feel every bit of whatever it is that they're trying to, you know, portray, and it's incredible.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely would love to experience that.
It's
Honestly.
wild. It
Yeah.
is it's wild. Um, like, what would you say has been the most intense musical experience you've ever had?
Oh wow. Um I believe it was probably when I started to get to a point when I was able to fully express myself. Because when I first started making music, it was because I knew I loved it, but like jazz, right? You learn, you study all this other stuff, then you forget it. But then when you're able to just flow and it comes out naturally, that's when I'm able to actually sit back and listen to some of my music like, oh shit, like this is like I actually made that. It's almost like it's hard to believe sometimes, you know what I'm saying? But I think that's been the most powerful thing for me is just experiencing, like really, as you said, like taking my ego off the table, pride, all that, and just being in the moment with the music. Like, yo, this is amazing right now. Like, and that's what really fuels me to make more music, so I can have more experiences with that and help people have the same experience.
That's pretty cool, and it must be an amazing feeling also, like if someone's like really into what you just created, and
Yeah.
like that they're it's like a gift almost that you're giving them.
That's exactly what it is, man. I mean, it's as I talked about, serving people, you know what I'm saying? Like that's really something that I had to adopt or at least just become aware of. And that's really all, like that's what we're doing, man. Like this is our gifting, you know what I'm saying? It's just like I'm able to make music, people are able to draw, or people are able to, like whatever Mother Teresa difference or what Martin Luther King did, like those, they had a specific gifting and they explored that gifting.
No, yeah, absolutely, and like the beauty of music, and like we were kind of like alluding to this earlier, and like the power, like when you see someone who's just so influential on like a national or even an international scale,
Yeah.
like the level, like I don't think that, it, because like I have an inkling, but like it's just hard to fathom how someone deals with that. Like
Yep.
I think that, a lot of times we look at that and we go, ooh, like, that I'm jealous of that person. Like, like they're the luckiest person on the face of the earth. And I'm like, I don't think so. Like
Yeah.
yeah, like I think that,
Uh,
you know, it's hard to like really conceive how there are some people who have become so big that they're no longer just a person,
yep.
And and like that's like I guess like depending on who like your mindset on that, maybe you like that, but I think that most people it's like it sounds good, but then
Right.
it's like it's almost as if you no longer are you. You're bigger than you to everyone, and you're still a human. So like
Yep.
there are things, what I mean? Like so it's like the expectations and just the way in which we look at certain celebrities, like yeah, it sounds kind of anxiety inducing.
Bro, I mean, and that's, you bring up a great point because if you look at an artist like Beyonce, for instance, she was basically bred to be who she is, by her parents. And but when you start so young, like development almost slows down on a human level. But so I mean, they were real dope as dancers, singers, all this other stuff. But you can see now, since Beyonce has got to a specific point, she's taking a more human approach to certain things. You know what I'm saying? The way she talks in her interviews, the stuff that she's doing, like actually contributing to stuff like that. So even like Justin Bieber, for instance, like I couldn't imagine being like, just thinking about my 15-year-old self, the amount of development I needed just as a civilian, just as a human being, to get where I'm at right now. But then I have people wanting to kill me, like talking down on me, all this other shit. And it's just like, bro, I'm just trying to make music. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like I'm just trying to live my life, right? So yeah, like I mean, I think anxiety like is the tip of the iceberg, the tip of the tip of the iceberg, But yeah, like I said, you bring up a great point, man, because like, and actually ASAP Rocky, he talked about this too, is like, because someone I believe asked him like, "Do you believe that this music has changed you or the money changed you?" He's like, "Not really, because I know who I am." You know what I'm saying? He didn't come in the game when he was like 19 years old. I think he was like in his mid 20s or whatever. So that's why I was just like, he had time to develop as a human being. There's
Right.
something to say about that. When you can develop and then be who you are in every situation.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, and I think just in general, like artists, whether you say comics or like musicians, like it's not a surprise. Like it shouldn't be a surprise that there are so many people who end up with drug habits and all these
Yep.
other things because it's just a lot. It's like you have your own stuff. You have like things that you're going through personally, but then like people are putting you on this just ridiculous pedestal
That's
where
facts.
you're not like you have to be perfect, and it's
Yep.
like nobody is perfect,
Not
and
one person. Yeah.
and in the world, like in the world of the internet, I just feel like that just, magnifies it even more. Because it's like if you were a celebrity, pre-internet, it's like there are still people on your ass, but like at least you could just like put a stop to it at a certain point in the day when
Yep.
you go home. Now it's just all day, every day, 24/7, 365. You can't
That's
get
right.
around it.
That's right, man. Yeah, you had to turn off your phone, turn off your TV, like turn off everything, just to turn off your mind. But yeah, I mean, man, that shit is just crazy. Like I sometimes think about that too. I'm just like, man, is this what I really want? Like, do I really want to be like this international artist and all this other stuff? And at this point in my life, I definitely do, because again, I've had time to develop. Like if there was no development time, like I would want to take more time to just figure out who the fuck I am first.
No, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But I do want to get into your into the comic books
Yes.
and hear about that because I'm really curious. Before we get into that though,
Yes.
it's so funny. I swear to God, every single time I've ever interviewed somebody, like there's ends up being something that happens a couple hours or a day before like we discuss something that's
Yeah.
applicable. It's hilarious. But one of my friends was telling me about this show on Amazon called Invincible. Have you ever heard of it?
Of course, man. That shit is dope.
I watched the first episode. Holy shit.
It's great.
That was like a real this is like based off a real comic book?
That's correct. Yeah, it
That
is.
is insane.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting too, because I don't know how much you know about comics, but like, and this is like more like my brother's department, but like originally there was a comic code, or a long time ago there was a comic code. So like you didn't see people like Superman, like they wouldn't kill anybody, what I mean, in a comic book. So personally, it's cool to see a character like Superman and Omni Man like just murdering motherfuckers, man.
Dude, when their version of the Flash was like bam, 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 punching him while
Yup.
freaking I'm like,
Crushing his head.
damn, that shit was intense.
Bro, yeah, and the swearing too, like when you put in like, because those are like, that's like real shit. Like that's how people
Mhm.
really talk. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a lot of the thoughts that people really have, and it's an interesting twist. Like even though there's a lot of similar characters in the Invincible universe, Batman, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, all these characters, they put a dope spin on that, and
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I got through the entire thing, man. You're gonna really enjoy that shit.
Yeah, I'm excited. And apparently they gave the green light for the next 2 seasons.
Fuck yeah. I'm excited about that shit, bro.
Dude, it was so good. But yeah, your comic book.
Yes, of course, man. So the comic book that my brother and I are working on, it's called Joystick Angels. It's actually a YA, which is young adult. It's a space opera. So when you think about a space opera, like think about Star Trek, think about Star Wars. And it's actually about five young kids who are fighter pilots, essentially, and they've actually been tasked to defend the Libor space station. And essentially, the Libor space station is the last surviving human colony. All right, so the people that they're, or not really people, but the organism that the Libor space station is fighting in the comic book is actually called the Eukarya, and they're a parasitic empire. So basically, they're a world eater. They're a universe eater. So Earth is destroyed, and then now they live on the space station. It's 2,000 years in the future, and we're basically following these five pilots, these kids who are just going through it, man. You know what I'm saying? Personal stuff. And then they're also dealing with, having this great responsibility.
Wow. And what influenced this?
Ultimately, it was just telling a unique story because personally, I mean, I like stuff like Star Trek and Star Wars, and like our father was really into Star Trek when we were kids. So we grew up with that type of stuff. And when my brother and I were putting the story together, it was like, we don't really see black people or people who look like us in this specific storyline. There was like Lando Calrissian and shit like that, like coolest dude in the motherfucking universe. But like, how many other black people were there? You know what I mean? So actually seeing all different types of races, but like that's what the Libor space station is. It's like everyone from all over the earth is in this one place. So it really becomes this, like, like in New York, for instance, it's like it's this melting pot. You know what I'm saying? So you don't really see you don't necessarily see, like, we don't touch on race or anything like that. Again, we're just telling a story about people who look like us.
Yeah, no, that's dope. And that makes me think of like, Black Panther and when that came out and
Yep.
how impactful it was. Like the energy that came through, like when that movie came out, like I'll never
Yeah.
forget it. Like at my job, like I saw Black Panther when it came out probably 3 or 4 times.
Yep, me too.
And like it was just it was pretty dope, like at my job, because it came out Black History Month, I think.
Yep.
And we, like, at my job, like they would do like Black History Month stuff, and they were like the black department or whatever, like black, like cultural department, like
Yeah.
they were like, we're gonna get some tickets to black, and it's just
Oh, that's
so
dope.
funny. It was just so funny because like the culture clubs, like they do everything for like every single groups month and stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like normally everyone's just like, yeah, like when they, but then when Black Panther came out,
We going.
everyone, like, it was insane. We
That's
probably had
dope.
like 3 or 4 theaters packed, like hundreds of people in each one from the job watching Black Panther.
That's
and
dope.
and like when like think about like that, or like what you're doing with your comic, it's like, you know it's beautiful to like see that we've gotten to a point where you know you could take something that's like very influential to a particular culture, and make it so that it's mainstream, and people from all walks of life can enjoy it together, and just look
That's
at
right.
it not through the lens of race but through the lens of just art.
Yeah, man. And that's one of the paramount things that we're, or really the foundational things that we're trying to do here, is we're just trying to tell a good story. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I just, put my blinders on for a second, and I just, like, let's say someone read the story to me, I would like it regardless of who was involved, the characters who were involved. It's just a great story. You know what I'm saying? And, being a music person too, like, I was able to do a soundtrack for to actually accompany the comic book. You know what I mean? That's another unique piece of it as well. So yeah, man, being able to tell a great story and make some fire music too, it's like I'm in heaven, bro.
Well, yeah, at the end of the day, that's what life is all about, right? It's really about stories.
Yep.
Everything is a story, whether you realize it or not. And that's just how we communicate. That's how like, for the most part, as a species, we transfer information
Yep.
primarily through story. Like even with music, like
Man.
there's a story that's being told. And like even if like you go back to like slavery, like didn't they like have songs that they would sing that were
100%.
like codes and things like that, like it's another form of communication, whether we like look at it through that lens or not.
That's correct. Yeah, man. And being able to, and I'm glad, like, obviously we talked about technology, but like being able to capture something that people will be listening to and be reading, 10, 20 years from now. It's going to be very relevant, and it's going to be something that is progressive in any age. You know what I'm saying? Because obviously, when you think about someone like Elon Musk, it's like, man, every time we hear about this dude, there's another rocket. They're talking about space colonies and all this other stuff. And I'm just like, okay, that's dope. That's great. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that's where we're at, let's have the conversation. But I believe we need to have, as you said, those stories to go along with it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why Star Wars did so well. That's why Star Trek is like still going, you know what I'm saying? However many different iterations they have. So it's like, it's crazy, bro, but it's very relevant.
No, absolutely. And I think when you look at all of those, they're so influential just due to the amazing storytelling, the fact that anyone can consume or just take in any of that and see themselves in it in some way, shape, or form, or just like relate to it. I think that's the key, right? Like being able to really engage your audience and have them see themselves in you.
It's all about relatability, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the main issues I have with music in general. It's like, bro, I can't relate to what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, because if you look at Drake, for instance, like I've never really gotten into his music personally. Like I just, like sonically, there's some decent stuff, but like, and some of the songs that he writes are cool, but I've just never really been able to relate to his music. I haven't been able to feel it, and it's the same conversation that like Charlemagne the God would have about Eminem. He doesn't rock with it. He doesn't put him in his top 10 or top 50 or whatever because he can't relate to it, but he puts Jeezy up there. You know what I'm saying? He puts DMX up there, these people, because of the relatability factor. So you hit the nail on the head with that one, man.
And I think this is a perfect segue to talk about local artists and
Yep.
your POV on that.
Yeah, hey man. I went to an open mic yesterday. I got a chance to perform in my area, and there's so much fucking talent out there, right? And people who are focusing on the energy of the music, the energy of the connection. You know what I'm saying? Because like when I first started going to like open mics or like performances and stuff like that, it was actually for a competition. So a lot of like I don't really value that energy as much as I do as someone or as an event like an open mic, because usually when you go to an open mic, people are just like, whatever you do, bro, I'm trying to hear it. You know what I mean? Because man, this dude showed up with an alto saxophone. You know what I'm saying? And there was this dude doing poetry and shit like that, and I'm just like, yes, I want to hear that shit. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's like focusing on the purity of the music. You're gonna hear that more with local artists. See, we need to encourage that. We need to really support that, and whatever however we can do that. You know what I'm saying? We need to actually just do more of it.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that local art is huge, and like being someone from New York, I think that I and other people have definitely taken for granted the level of talent and the exposure that at any moment I can encounter, especially
Anytime.
in at any time, especially in Manhattan. You could
Yeah.
like just be sitting down at like Union Square eating your sandwich, and you'll have some just random woman just belting, just singing her ass off, and like, depending on, who she is and what she's going through, you could feel what she's putting out there.
Yeah.
And, it's incredible. And I think that it's something where, you know, we're so like, like we were saying, like there's so much that is just thrown at us all the time that desensitizes us. But it's like, this is someone who's like, who could be like singing about like, their pain and like their
Yep.
experience and really giving you their essence. And that's something
Right.
that shouldn't be taken for granted, or just like you know just like ignored,
Yeah,
because it's incredible, even on the train sometimes
bro.
you encounter people.
Yo, man, I actually went to school in New York like 10 years ago, but I used to have to take the train all the time. And the shit that I would see, like coming from Michigan, like there is nothing like that at all. Like there's definitely the arts, but it's more in a traditional setting, like you go to the theater or you go to a concert. But when you, just like you said, when you can randomly just like pull up anywhere and just be like, yo, that's like some of the best shit I've heard ever. And speaking about like street performers and shit like that, I don't know, maybe you can clarify this too. I don't know if you know any more about this, but the street performers that you see, like in the subway, for instance, is there some type of association that they're a part of or something like that? Because I know they have to like submit music. Like you can't just like randomly pull out your guitar and start playing in the subway. Do you know anything about that?
So it varies,
Okay,
but like depending on the situation, it could be that they're just hopping on a train playing music, and
got you.
it's just them. Like that's the thing. But then sometimes, like especially like in like Times Square or something, like
Yeah,
those are people who are a bit more like involved in the arts and like part
sure.
of an organization of some sort. And are like, 'cause I think you have to like get like a permit or something.
That's
Like
what I thought. Yeah.
yeah, but like
Okay.
yeah, it depends though, because like it could be like one of those situations where they did just prop up and just do their thing, and they
No
don't give a
doubt.
fuck. It's New York City, so you
That's
kind
right.
of
You
it
gonna get
varies.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now that makes sense though, man. I just because I wasn't sure because I had heard that briefly, like, oh, okay, like man, yo, this guitar player, because sometimes there's like a full band. I'm like, oh, okay, but then someone had like just through passing told me that, and I'm like, that would make sense. Like, why would we just want like some random people just like pulling up, just like doing covers and stuff like that? And that's cool, but there's a lot of other stuff there that's usually a little bit, just more refined.
Right. And like I remember a couple of weeks ago, one of the parks over here, like me and my friends were just like walking around throwing the frisbee, and like we start hearing this beat on this like like African drum, and like we go over to like check it out, and it's like these ladies like who are just dancing to the beat in unison,
Yeah,
and like I want to say like 6, 7 people just beating the drum, all like on point,
yeah,
and like they just keep going. Like I'm talking like
that's
we were
fresh.
standing there for like 20 minutes or so, and they were just not stopping. And
Nice.
like it was like mostly a bunch of black people, but then there was like this one white lady and like this one white guy who were just like these hipsters, and they were banging
Yeah,
and they were hitting the notes. They were they,
nice.
they were getting it. They were getting it. I'm
Vibing,
like
yeah.
okay, Chad, okay.
Word. Okay,
Oh,
Karen, I see you.
yeah, I see you, Karen.
That's
But
dope,
like
man.
it was incredible. Like that like that energy, you could just feel it, and it was just beautiful. It was a nice day. You see like, little kids running around and like people watching, and
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where, I'm probably gonna sound like a hippie, but music, it's something that can, if you like, you have the blues where, it's like just this like sadness, and like you're pouring out like, just all the pain and the anger, but then, there's happy, and there's, like all these ranges of emotions. And I just think when I think of, just the amount of, love and, good feels and good vibes that, art in general can just, you know, wash onto someone. Like it just makes you think of just the potential of us all being able to be one, and just just be like peace and love and all that hippie
Yeah.
shit. But
Yeah.
you know,
Br-
that then in a moment we realize who we are again.
Yeah, we're still human, bro. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? That's a great point, man. And I mean, you said it earlier too, like that's the essence. You know what I'm saying? Like having music be communal again, You know what I'm saying? Having that relatability, just like you said, butterflies in the air, kids running around, just and people doing whatever, like add some food in there. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I think that's why like there will never be an energy and a vibe like a good cookout. You know what I'm saying? When
Oh my
like
god.
that like you can like you got drinks, you got, you know, drugs, you know what I'm saying? You got music, you got food, you got family and friends, you know what I'm saying? It's like the beautiful weather. It's like, bro, you can't bottle that shit, man. I know Yankee Candle be trying to bottle that shit, motherfucker. You can't do that shit. You can't bottle that. You know what I mean? So that's really one of the essence of music is just like, man, that feeling that it's just hard to describe, right?
Yeah, it's transcendent.
Yep.
And I remember I was watching the news with my girlfriend's parents. I don't watch the news. Fuck that shit.
Word.
They love
Word.
watching it. But they had this one segment that I really enjoyed where they were kind of just like doing an expose talking about how, like, how the pandemic has impacted the arts in New York, and
Yeah.
how there's like a few programs right now to kind of help struggling artists who, and like they showed a few of the artists who, were being toured all around the world, like to tap dance and all sorts of other things. And then
Yep.
the pandemic hit, and that pretty much just shut down everything. And now things are like starting to come back up. Like they showed that there's this one woman who's doing like a tour around the different boroughs, tap dancing for free for people in the park. And
Yeah.
like they were talking to like the people who were at the park and joining it, and like everyone was like saying just how it made them feel normal again and everything. And then they were talking about also like the theater, and like an outside theater thing that like this one production company is doing through donations for
Nice.
like for people in the public.
Yeah.
And they had like one of like a really really big Broadway guy who I actually like. I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name is Nathan Lane.
Never heard of him,
And
no.
yeah, and he was like part of it, and like they showed like a clip of him like doing like a monologue to a whole group of people. And like just seeing that sense of normalcy, and just I guess also personally, kind of reflecting on my experiences going to a play and going, and like just the feeling of being there, like just
Yeah.
watching that scene was emotional to me, where I'm just like, this is art. This is beautiful. This is something that, has been an amazing experience whenever I've gotten the chance to, see a play and be
Yep.
in that environment. And it's just like, damn, like it's kind of crazy where we are now and where we were and how we took that for granted.
Bro, yo, man, one of the one of the main words that I've heard throughout this pandemic is normal, right? Like, what is that even now? You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
understanding that, you know, as humans, being able to just, how do they say, what is like make lemonade with lemons or whatever?
Yeah.
So, see, like hearing about the tap dancing lady, you know what I'm saying? It's like hearing about these dudes doing monologue, but guess what that is though? That's the foundation of fucking art. That's where that shit came from. Being in the park, setting your shit up and doing it for free. Okay? That's where hip hop came from. All right? That's what dance always was. All right? We talk about telling stories. So like, oh my gosh, we can't get paid for it. You know, like I can't make my million every year. You know what I'm saying? It's just like during the pandemic, boo hoo. You know what I'm saying? Like I understand everyone's going through it, but like this is a great opportunity to tap into the essence of what the fuck you're doing. You know what I'm saying? And as you said, like evoking emotion, you know, like when you really felt that, it's just like, would you really have that connection, or would someone actually perform it if there wasn't a pandemic, if they weren't like, you know what, I'm gonna do what I haven't done in a long time, you know? Because here's the thing, and I know you've heard this too, where it's not about getting there, it's about keeping it, right? So people, like, you're in a relationship, right? Like you do all this shit to like, you meet their parents, you know what I mean? Like you pull out the bitch's chair, you know what I'm saying? You do all this other shit, and then you stop doing it once you get with the chick. Like keep it consistent and do whatever it takes to manage that relationship, because that's all this is. Like my relationship with music, I don't want to let it down. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to let the people down. Like, I don't want to be someone who I want people to look back and be like, yeah, man, Jay changed. Like, whenever he came out with, like, in the beginning, I love his music from 2015. Like, motherfucker, that shit ain't gonna happen with me, So
Yeah,
that's paramount.
yeah. You don't stop watering your plant, right?
Come on, man. Perfect analogy, bro.
And I think that that's a great segue to the discussion of just preserving art and ensuring that we're not taking the arts for granted. Do you think that
Yeah.
societally we don't put enough attention into the arts?
100%, man. And I mean, if people could take anything away from this conversation, is how important the arts are, in any medium at all. So when it comes to the program, like let's say it's just a band and orchestra program, like we need to make sure the funding's possible. You know what I'm saying? I'm not involved in that space when it comes to like a school, for instance, but it seems like whenever there's an issue with fiscally in this country, that's like one of the first things that's cut out is the arts, after school programs, shit like that. And it's just like, bro, these kids need this. You know what I mean? That's a part of their development. Like, especially like as I talked about in the beginning, like if there wasn't an after school program, if there wasn't that band class, if that wasn't something that was required, because band and or choir was required in my
Right.
school, right? So if I didn't have that, like I
And
don't even
and
want to talk about that.
and do you think, because like the one thing that comes to mind is that a lot of times I feel like, especially in mainstream media, that there is that notion that like the kids who are usually like in the art or like the film department and things like
Yeah,
that are the outsiders. They're a bit, of the people who aren't necessarily as accepted within the main groups and everything. So do you
that's
think that it's
correct.
also it's a place for people who may not fit into the realm of what we consider normal to really flourish? Because
Yep.
I feel like when I think of like good artists, most of them are weird.
Yes. 100%, man. I mean, Andre 3000 is one of my favorite artists. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just an interesting cat, man. You know what I'm saying? Erica Badu, interesting woman. Common, interesting dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people who are real geniuses, they're just crazy a little bit. Kanye West, I don't agree with all the stuff that he says or does, but it's like you can't
It's
you can't deny his
undeniable,
undeniable,
undeniable. He
undeniable
is
genius.
just he has a special mind.
100%, man. You know what I'm saying? So, like, being able to, first of all, realize that about yourself, but it's like, why, like, I don't know. I always say, like, why would I want to be normal? You know what I'm saying? Like, on a very rudimentary level, because obviously we've talked about, really connecting with the essence and stuff like that. But there's a part of me that after I've done music for a while and I really listen to the stuff that I'm saying, man, like I just want to say some fly shit. And I want people to be like, yo, that shit was fly. So it's like that's just like the human part of me coming on being like, yeah, I'm weird. And I like being weird, because if we weren't, we wouldn't be able to make fly shit.
Yeah. Like I just look at it through the lens of, okay, who do we have, like what civilization really has influenced where we are today more than anyone else? I'd say
Right.
The Greeks.
Okay.
And when you look at the Greeks, like we have democracy, which was a concept and ideology that we got from them. The
Sure.
the way in which our branches function, all of these things. And like you look at like a group like that and how dominant they were at the time where they, were the empire. Well, what was something that they prioritized? Like, what is something that we can see there's so much of art? you see sculptures, you see all these other things. It's like, of course, they had a military, they had all these other things to protect themselves to ensure that they can grow and yada yada yada. But they also made sure that art was something, that philosophy was something that they invested in,
Yep.
because a civil, like, that's one of the things about human beings, and as we've evolved, I think that we have to keep hold on to that, because like through that evolution, through those times of us flourishing, arts was always something that was very, like, was coveted, and I think that we should just maintain, like, the knowledge that of how important it is, and make sure
Yeah.
that it's something that's preserved and maintained, because you don't want to, like, lose out on all the beautiful art that we can have, uh, throughout these times, just like, and what a shame if it's just because of something that doesn't even exist, money, that you don't put in the time, like, for
That's
the kids
facts.
and everybody.
Bro, that's an ultimate point right there, man. Being able to connect in a real way and just as we talked about before, not taking that for granted, man. I mean, if I'm someone who really loves what I do, like I have to keep that type of stuff in mind. It's like the arts is something that has helped so many people. Speaking of, like, really just speaking from a personal point of view, like it saved my life, and when I can help somebody else with that too, like I've done my job. I've been a good conduit, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, but Glee, remember when
Yeah.
Glee came out? That
Yeah.
was the shit the first few years, like, and I feel like that was a really popular show because it
Yeah.
was incredibly relatable, right? Like a
Yep.
bunch of, like, reject kids in a chorus class. I remember I was in chorus at one point,
Nice.
and, like, I can't sing for shit though. But like, they were, like, there was like a gay kid, like a black girl who was a bit on the heavy side and was insecure, and it's like
Yeah.
they were able to, like, that was their safe haven. This was a place where they were able to be completely and utterly who they are, and to, put that into the music that they express. And I feel like that's something that is relatable to people, and that, is a nice story that makes you feel good. And I think that we need to, not take that for granted, and just really make sure that, the arts is something that we invest in.
Man, we need to put way more investment in arts, man. You know what I'm saying? I need to personally learn more about that and just do whatever I can do, you know what I'm saying, as my platform starts to get bigger. Like I want to be able to really figure that out, you know what I'm saying? But in the meantime, I think like doing just coming out with great, like just yeah, telling great stories, coming out with great music, having a quality product, and just encouraging people to do the same thing. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, and I would say, like, anyone who's listening, wherever you are, maybe look up some local artists, like, look up, like, your area, and see if there's, people performing in your area that you might be interested in, and,
Yep.
help support them. And, like, this isn't just necessarily someone singing or playing music. It could even be like a comedian. It could be like, supporting, just local art in your area in general. Like, maybe they do local plays outside or something, but, like, really just taking advantage of it too, because, right, like, like we were saying, like, in the city, there's just so many talented people, and I think
Facts.
that we're just so desensitized that at times we don't even, acknowledge the beauty that we have in front of us. But, I want to also ask you, from a standpoint of artists, who
Yeah.
sticks out to you, that, like, you're just like, "Man, this person is just embodies the beauty of art." Like, maybe, and if you have, like, maybe a famous person, and then not like someone who's not as well known.
Yeah, of course, man. So, J. Cole just dropped his album. I think it was yesterday or Friday, I believe. And I believe him specifically, like he's focusing on the right things. He understands that, you know, telling stories and having actual talent is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? It's actually a good thing. And then, but understanding his demographic and the actual industry he's in. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't need change, you don't need cars and all that other shit, but he can also talk about that shit. Like, I believe the best artists are able to be more reserved, but they can also stunt whenever they need to. Like, that's a very important thing to, again, just be aware of the industry that you're in. And then one of I'm trying to think of a specific artist that I really like who's not so popular. Um Shit, man. There's a lot of people who I've worked with. I'm actually gonna say a person who I've worked with, Miles is her name. And one of the reasons why is because Miles is actually transgender. But and I didn't know this when I originally worked with her, but as I started to get to know Miles, it was just like, okay, you have artists who are very outward about certain things, but it just seems like in this day and age, there's taboo stuff, and it's just like, okay, you almost have to say that you're one thing for it to be impactful instead of just being that. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're transgender, okay, you don't have to scream it from the rooftops. Just make a great product. You know what I'm saying? And that was never something that Miles led with when we started working together. You know what I'm saying? Super talented, like writes great music, all this other shit, and kind of unknown at the moment. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'll definitely put Miles up there at the moment.
Yeah, and yeah, I think, it sounds like this is someone who basically, I guess you could say, isn't really like diving into like identity politics and really, I guess,
Nah,
you know, making that the main focal point of who they are. They're like, no, I'll let my work speak for itself. And
exactly what it
yeah,
is.
yeah, and I think that shows, like, that's the difference between someone being gimmicky or not, right?
Yep.
Like, and gimmicky people, I don't think are, you know, that's not real. Like, that's
Yeah,
not
nah,
authentic.
not even a little bit, man. I mean, there's this it's basically like a label for people, but it's called industry plants. Have you ever heard about that?
No.
So an industry plant is essentially, I mean, you kind of talked about it earlier, where someone is basically just like a caricature of something that's popular.
Right.
So let's say you have, I mean, we really Lil Pump, for instance, he's more of an industry plant. So you have this young kid who has weird hair, who will really much, who's pretty much is just an anomaly when it comes to the stuff that he said. Like, one minute he's saying fuck Trump, the next moment he's supporting him. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it almost seems like he's carefree. He doesn't really have a stance on anything. And his music is complete and utter garbage. You know what I'm saying? So, but it works. But it works because it's not about it's not really about the message. It's about the beat. Like, he gets good beats, and then the overall vibe, like, it just like, and I get that a lot when I go to an open mic, for instance, or a performance, or even if it's a showcase. It's like people always would be like, yo, Jay, you're super dope, but they're not like jumping up and down and dancing to my music. The person who's not saying shit but has a real dope beat, they're jumping up and down to that shit because, oh, that was a vibe. That shit went crazy. That shit went up, all this other shit. But that's essentially what an industry plan is. They find someone who fits the look, and they're able to just like mold them and then put them into place and then make money off of them. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, we're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah, and I guess that's where like you kind of see the wedge, and you're able to tell who is a true artist who's doing it because this is their truth, and someone who's, like you're saying, a plant, like someone who essentially is, a prop or
Yep.
a major corporation.
We're seeing lots of props, bro.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, right? And I think that that just goes back to like the whole money, like the aspect of money, and I'd argue that this isn't necessarily even just for artists, but anyone. It's like when you're doing something, you know, you if you start doing it well, you, like at one point you're gonna have to like make a decision, right? Where like
Yep.
if you're doing a good job and you're starting to get the attention of other people, and they're like, hey, we want to give you a boatload of money and here are the things that we want to do. You're going to have to kind of look in the mirror and kind of, figure out, is this something like, am I willing to lower my standards to, make a boatload of money?
Yep. Look, man, Jay-Z said it the best. He said, truth be told, I want to be rhyming like common sense. But I did 5 mil, so I ain't been rhyming like common sense. So it's just like when you think about someone like him who was aware of that, he was just like, you know what? I can compromise a little bit to reach more people and to make more money. Like he just understood the industry, you know what I mean? But after a while, then he came out with 444, right? He's
Yeah.
bailing people out of jail, like he's changing, or really he's making a huge impact on culture in a more relevant way, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So, like, just like you said, man, you gotta make the decision. You gotta be, you gotta know what you stand for, even if it's like, you know what? And like Pink talked about it too. Like she didn't necessarily want to make R&B music when she first came into the game, but she did that. She got an audience and then she started making the music she wanted to.
Right.
So whatever it
Yeah.
takes, man.
Man, speaking of Pink, one song that like just sticks out to me, Family Portrait.
Okay.
Woo! Remember that song?
I've never heard that song.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so. I've never really listened to her music a lot. I listened to it in the beginning, but I haven't listened to her like recent stuff.
Well, that's not recent, but like
Okay.
I Family Portrait, man, the emotion in that song, her voice, whew,
I'll
pretty
listen
good.
to that shit. Yeah,
Pretty
she's
pretty
actually
good.
very talented. She's super talented, man. I've always thought she was dope, but I've never really like followed her music like that too much.
No, yeah. And I think on my end, like I don't have a local artist, but like from a an artist that's a bit more mainstream, I like Harry Styles. I
Okay,
think
really?
Yeah, I think that Harry Styles, he's very interesting.
Okay.
I think that he has pretty decent range. Uh, he played the guitar really well, and like I appreciate that. Like he has some good acoustics that
Yeah.
like it's he. But yeah, he. I feel like he's someone like when I like see how he behaves and everything. Like I don't think like I think that that's just who he is. Like he seems like kind of reminds of like Prince, where like
Word.
he kind of has like that kind of like dresses a little funny and like
Mm-hmm.
like has like a bit of like a feminine type of look to him, but like it's
Yep.
authentic. Like it like I don't ever like look at him and think that he's like doing it like to be popular. Like I think that that's just who he is.
Yeah, yeah. I could definitely see that about him. It seems like ever since that what was it, One Direction or whatever, ever since that group broke up, it seems like we're starting to see the different artists like Zayn, like the direction he went, and then also Harry Styles. Like I could definitely see that, because it seems like some of the music is actually pretty good though too. But I haven't even dove into that.
Right. But yeah, in a nutshell, I guess what would be like your last words as far as just your what you envision for like the future of music, like what like you'd want people listening to take away as far as what music is to you and like how they can maybe enjoy music more.
Sure, man. So personally, I believe that like to really enjoy something, there needs to be, as we've talked about, an ego death, essentially, or basically just taking anything out of the equation that won't help you enjoy the music, right? So, and a lot of times what that is just like taking it back to the foundation of when you first started listening or playing music. So, if you're a 50-year-old woman in the Midwest somewhere and you have a basic job and you're constantly focusing on just surviving, that can get in the way and color anytime you listen to something.
Right.
But if there's a specific song that really speaks to your situation, those are the type of feelings that we need to focus on. All right, because that's when you really have a connection to music, when you can turn something on and you listen to it 100 times in a row, because the song's not only dope, but it hits you right in your heart, it hits you in your spirit. You know what I'm saying? But there's something logically dope about it as well. So being able to strip away everything that can get in the way of you really enjoying the process of either making music or just enjoying music as an end user.
Definitely, man. I
Yep.
think music is just it's one of those things that's just it's incredible. And like it's like, like for instance, like if an alien came and you had to like explain
Yeah.
music, it would be so hard, right? Like
Yep.
it's more of a feeling. Like it's tough to put into words, you know.
That's correct, man. And that's why I've always said, like, when people have asked me, like, what inspires you to make something, or like how did you do something? I'm just like, I didn't really make it. Like, I'm just available, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I just trained this vessel that is me as a musician to basically be a good conduit, because whatever is given to me, I need to be able to portray that in the best way. You know what I'm saying? So like that's all it is, man. You know what I'm saying? In a nutshell. But I mean, there's obviously like it's different for everybody, but for me, like that's how I approach it.
Yeah, for sure, man. Jay Sterling, this has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming
Yes,
on the
sir.
podcast. Before we
Appreciate you,
go
man.
though, if you want to give the people your info, I'm gonna put it in the script, but if you want to just say it out loud too for them.
Yeah, of course, man. So I mean, I'm definitely on Instagram more than anything. So I'm at the Sterling Example, all one word. Or you can hit me on my website, and that's mittmusic.com, MITT music.com. And also I want everyone to visit the Kickstarter page as well. You know what I'm saying? I'll send you that link as well so you can put it in the description. You know what I'm saying? I want everyone to, watch the video, take a look at the art, and understand that, again, we got a comic book and we have an original soundtrack going along with it, man. If you're a comic book lover, if you're a music lover, I've really took a dive into hip hop, R&B, pop, rock. Like I'm touching a lot of different genres. So I believe you guys would love that.
Nice, dope. I'll definitely add that to the script. Once again, Jay
Thanks.
Sterling, thank you, man.
Yes, thank you, man. It was a pleasure.